in the name of God, who is Imam Hussain. Every year, in an exact month called Muharram, millions of Muslims all around the world gather to honor and mourn for a holy man who was killed 1,000 years ago. They cry and shed tears for him. Maybe you've asked why Muslims cry for someone who was killed a long time ago, and why are they holding memorial ceremony for him every single year? Come along with me and discover the secret of this ceremony. He was not an ordinary human being. His name was Hussain. Hussain was the grandson of Muslims' holy prophet Muhammad. He stood up against oppressors, and he is a role model of Muslims in sacrifice, freedom, liberty, and resistance. We call him Imam. Imam means leader and rector. In year 61 Islamic calculating, Imam Hussain, along with his wife, children, and sibling, went to Iraq from Arabia in order to respond to Iraqi's request. More than 4,000 Iraqi wrote a letter to Imam Hussain and asked him to come to Iraq and rescue them for cruelness and injustice of their king Yazid and bring justice, goodness, and beauty. Yazid was a cruel leader, and he took people's property by force and represented Islam in an unrealistic and cruel way. Actually, he does not know anything of real Islam and do whatever he liked to do and whatever benefits him. He had broken a lot of absolute law in Islam himself. So Iraqis asked for help, and Imam Hussain answered them by coming to Iraq. Yazid prevented Iraqis to join Imam Hussain by force and threat. On the other hand, he prevented Imam Hussain to enter in capital city of Iraq. So Imam had to stay in midway land called Karbala. In Karbala, cruel Yazid along with 10,000 soldiers and military men stood against him and ordered his army to start war with Imam Hussain. Imam and his wife and his children and siblings with the companions were only 72 people. One side an army with 72 soldiers, and other side thousands of soldiers. But cruelness did not stop here. They surrounded the river and did not let Hussein's companion, even the children and women, to drink water. After a few days of surrounding and not drinking even a drop of water in a hot desert, after a few days of surrounding and not drinking even a drop of water in a hot desert, all Hussein's companions were desperately thirsty and weak. They cannot do anything but tolerating the situation they trapped in. That was not a fair war. Yazid told Imam Hussain, if you want me to stop killing you and not imprison your family, you should accept my leadership and accept all my deeds and unite with me. Consider this fact that Imam Hussain is the Prophet Muhammad's grandson, and Yazid had been violating most of Islamic laws purposely. So there is no way Imam Hussain accept Yazid's condition. So Hussain obviously did not accept his offer and told him that dying with dignity is way better than living with dishonor. After this, Yazid, God never forgive him, attacked Imam Hussain and his few companions with his huge army. Every single person in Imam's side was killed one by one. One Imam's son, who was named Ali Akbar, started fighting back and killed some of the enemies. But a lot of Yazid's army attacked him and tore a part of his body and cut off his head. companion was killed, and their heads were cut off, while they were thirsty so bad. After Ali Akbar, Imam's nephew Qasim went to battlefield. He was only 13 years old, but he fought like a brave fighting man. Qasim killed 3 soldiers of enemy, but then they killed him and they threw a stone at him, and then they cut his head off. The last brother of Imam wanted to go to the battlefield, but the youngest daughter of Imam asked him to bring water, because they were so thirsty that they cannot tolerate. Imam's brother was Abbas. He was a strong and brave fighter. All the Yazid's army scared of him and ran away when they heard his name. Abbas found a way to the river to bring water for innocent children. When he arrived near the river, all the enemy soldiers ran away. Abbas took water and guided his horse to walk. Kids, but enemy soldiers shoot arrow at him to stop him. They cut his right hand off first. Abbas took the water with his left hand and continued his way, but enemy cut his left hand too. He had no hand to take the water, so he took it with his teeth and ran toward kids to give them the water. But enemy shot an arrow to his eye and one to his water container. The arrow tore the water container and all the water raced. Abbas fell off his horse and hit the ground with his face. Enemy smashed his head with an iron hammer. Abbas could not give the water to the children and was killed. All Imam's companions were killed and there were no one left. Imam had a 6-month-old son, Ali Asghar. The infant could not quite do this thirstiness. Imam showed him to the enemy army and said, "This innocent 6-month-old infant is dying. Give some water only to him." But suddenly an arrow shot the infant's throat and cut his head off. Imam got so sad and buried the infant there. Then Imam said goodbye to his wife and children and sisters. Everyone was crying, but Imam had to go to the battlefield without any other help. No kid, no brother, and no army. He attacked the enemy. He killed some cruel soldier, but enemy shot arrow toward him, and Imam fell off his horse and they cut his head too. But they did not stop their unforgiving action. They ran across his head body with horses. After this, Yazid gave an order to attack the women and children and imprison them. Imam Hussain is our 3rd Imam. He sacrificed himself for preventing Islam not to be destroyed. Yazid presented Islam wrongly, in a furious way, so Imam was against him. Imam Hussain is a symbol of freedom and liberty. He accepted dying instead of uniting with the oppressors. Nowadays, ISIS, Islamic States of Iraq and Syria, like Yazid, shows a cruel and wild presentation of Islam that is completely wrong. And they kill Imam Hussain admirer and cut their heads off. Finish.